Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am incredibly excited to be here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a big warm welcome to the seventh edition of the Misk Global Forum. My name is Leen Sharraif, and I'm a program manager at the Misk Foundation. I'm very happy to be here and honored to be the moderator of our first session at the MGF with our lovely panelists. We promise in our first session to do exactly what the title says, to deconstruct the big now. Very simple words, but a very deep meaning that we hope we see with our esteemed guests with us today. And also brought through even more truthfully, but when we had to register, everyone had to choose, am I a big thinker or am I an action taker? I honestly felt that it was a trick question. And I stayed in kind of 5 دقايق, I'm trying to figure out like which one I am. And I think it was designed this way because we are almost forced to realize that you need to do both to be able to actually realize your dream. So without further ado, I have prominent youth leaders here who are living the big now. And on my right here, I have Yara Alhogbani, a true pioneer and Saudi Arabia's first female tennis player on the professional circuit. Omar Bawa, you are the co-founder and COO of Goodwall, a skills-based social network for Gen Z serving over 2 million people around the world. And Okan Dursun, co-founder and CEO of Carbongate and one of the 17 young leaders of the UN SDG goals. Please give us a warm welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to start with our first question, get right into it. Yara, if we can start with you, what does the big now mean to you?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here in front of you all today and to just thank you all for coming. To answer your question, I think that the big now represents opportunity for youth across the kingdom with the ongoing investment into various industries. In terms of sport, this means more engagement in different sports, whether that's participating and playing to even spectating. I think that the big now is making it much easier for youth to evolve and progress throughout the kingdom, and I think it encourages that. So the big now is definitely booming with opportunity, and then it's also exciting.
It is, and you're an example of that. What about you, Omar?
Thank you, Lina. First of all, really grateful to be here. Thank you to the Misk team for making this happen. And it's just incredibly beautiful to be in such a venue here today, and so historic as well. When it comes to the big now, it's really about, thinking big, acting now. And for me, what that means is it's almost a response, a result of what if we were to have no limitations? What would be the possibilities if we were to have, unlimited or limitless resources, capital, technology? What could we achieve? And it's not just about thinking big, but also taking that and acting immediately with an urgency to address some of our greatest challenges, right? Think bold, think ambitiously, but at the same time, concretely act on that today to make a difference.
Absolutely. Okan.
Yes. Thank you very much for having us here. This is my second time at Misk Global Forum. And last year it was amazing as well. And it's very honored to be at that amazing heritage, to speak with these great people surrounding and coming here from global countries. So this is our honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you for your hospitality. I am Okan and I'm from Turkey. So I'm very close to the culture of the Saudi Arabia. We have a Turkish coffee as well, very similar to Saudi one. So I'm feeling like at my home. So thank you for making that feeling. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. When we talk about big now, wow, it's a big thing. When I saw that question first, I would like to mention big now as big thing and act now. And when I think about that concept, it allows me that how is that feeling big thing? Makes me feel very passionate and excited about our world, because I am social entrepreneur and working in climate technology. And I think that big thing makes me that the thing that disturb my sleep at night. I'm just thinking about how I can struggle that problem. This is a really big thing for me. Like climate technology, like climate action we are facing right now. When it comes to act now, that's makes us awake in the morning with a high excitement to take action, to solve these problems. This is the definition for me for Big Now. Big think with the high dreams, and act now with a very infinite resources and very proactive actions for a better world for all.
I like how you made it very real. Like there is a lot of discomfort in thinking big. It's not always comfortable.
Exactly.
But in the action, there's also excitement. So
Exactly.
you kind of need both to actually move.
Thank you.
Omar, you spoke about not having limits. And I want to make this very real for the audience. Like I don't want it to be like kind of in the air. So can you give us an example of something that was personally big for you, that you've achieved, or something that you're currently working on?
Thank you, Leen. I think when it comes to big now in action, perhaps, a very concrete example for me is the work we've done at Goodwall. Maybe perhaps before walking through that, it helps to give a bit of context. So I was born into a humanitarian family of sorts. My father served the UNHCR for 30 years to help refugees. My mother was the first female employee of the Global Fund to fight HIV/AIDS, TB, malaria. So my brother and I, we grew up with a desire to create meaningful impact with our lives at a very young age. And initially, my career vocation or my career aspiration was to follow in their footsteps, perhaps join the Red Cross, the ICRC, the Red Crescent, get in one of those vehicles and have very concrete, meaningful impact with my life. And that would be an example of acting now. But at the same time, I grew up, you could say, at a time when social networking was picking up. I started coding at the age of 10. And so I saw the opportunity of what if I could leverage this technology that we have and leverage it for good in order to create impact at a scale that I could not imagine at that time. And that's what ended up being the core DNA and the mission of Goodwall, right? Leverage technology and community at scale in order to impact society positively. And today, as Leen mentioned earlier, we've now created, I co-founded Goodwall with my brother Taha, and we've created a skills-based social network for Gen Z that helps them learn and earn from the ages of 16 to 26 to become the best versions of themselves. Today, we're serving more than 2.5 million young people in 150 countries, right? So well beyond the scope of what I would be initially able to create as impact on an individual capacity.
Do you think it was your thinking that there are no limitations, or were there limitations that you had to kind of redefine?
I think there, it does help. This is one of the advantages of being young, is in some way you're also naive and you don't know what those limitations are, and that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And you have this energy that you're able to just overcome any obstacle in your way, whether it's financial capital, human resources.
Yeah.
Someone tells you it's not possible, you're like, yeah, well, no one's tried it before, so let me give it a shot. So that's one of those benefits.
I like that silver lining. What about you, Okan?
Yeah, what is big now for me? While we are speaking, are you aware about the birds are speaking? Yeah, speaking right now. The nature is a beautiful thing, and we don't have any planet B. So my big now is having a better planet A for us and for the generations to come. This is the thing that wakes me awake every morning and disrupt my sleep at night. That's why we founded Carbongate, to provide decarbonization solutions for the companies. Because the greenhouse gases are getting high and getting serious problem for our planet. And we need to take action now. And we have enough time, we have enough capacity, and we have enough resources to tackle this problem. And all the problems we are talking comes at the end as a problem of climate change. That's why what is the big now and big thing for me is climate change. That's why as a social entrepreneur and as a young leader for the United Nations, I am very passionate about SDG 13, climate action, and trying to tackle this problem as much as practical solutions we can provide for our better world. That's why we are working with the big companies, with different industries, and we are providing industry-specific decarbonization platform for them. They can measure, track, and reduce their carbon footprint. But the more important thing is everything starts with education. That's why we are providing education to improve their awareness about these concepts. Then we are having a solution provider for them to create better steps in their industries, in their company levels. This is big now for me, for the climate change.
Very inspiring. Yara, what about you? What example can you share with us? And I think with a lot of the the women here, I think you're someone that's very relatable. Tell us a story that exemplifies the big now.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously aside from my own personal ambitions and goals that I have for myself of representing the kingdom on the highest stages in tennis, something I'm personally striving to achieve and hope to see come to life is more participation in tennis and sports more broadly across the kingdom, both female and male. And I think to do that, we need more communities better fit to accommodate, to high performance athletes. And when I say better fit to accommodate, I don't mean better gym equipment or nicer facilities. I mean in a community and an environment that promotes a healthy and active lifestyle. For example, where the athletes can compete with each other, where they can learn from each other, they can grow with each other. In my own personal experience, I've had to travel to find that community, and I don't want that to be the case for youth in the kingdom. I think sport already has so much sacrifice on its own, and a big one is having to relocate. So, for example, I don't want a child in Ebha that's looking to participate in a sport and have to travel to Riyadh to find that. I think that I want that to be accessible to everyone in their respective cities. And I think the first steps in making that happen is definitely having more participation in sports, and that on its own will organically create those communities all throughout the kingdom. So that's something that's personally big for me, and I'm sure will come to life soon.
I hear companionship in your answer, and I think when we also kind of had a chat yesterday, I think companionship is important, enabled for us to reach honestly anywhere. Even as someone that just needs to go to the gym, if my friend is joining me at the gym, I'm just simply going more often.
Yeah, for sure. So
let alone making a big change or a transformative change, we need resources, we need people that are kind of by our side. So that's beautiful. Again, in an effort to kind of make this kind of even more real, what you all have in common, and that's why you've been selected to be part of this stage and this session, is that at a fairly young age, you were able to translate your big ideas into personal successes, and even more than personal successes, perfectly embodying the theme of the big now. I would like for you to share with us some of the key steps of turning these big ideas into big change. Who wants to go first this time?
I think I can go first.
Okay.
So I think when you want to transform big ideas into big change, I think the first steps would definitely be to have a clear set plan, really picture it, envision it, because if you can't see it, you won't believe it. And I'm sure we all know how big of a role self-belief plays in achieving whatever it is you're striving to achieve. So definitely have a clear set plan. Be disciplined and determined enough to stick to that plan, no matter how rocky the road gets. And something that, I found has worked personally best for me is to celebrate milestones along the way. It's important to celebrate those little wins and to stop every once in a while and appreciate how far you've come and be proud of that. And I think that ultimately at the end of the day motivates you and drives you more to keep striving for that goal. And I think lastly, if you have the opportunity to be mentored by some of the leaders in that industry, or even just engaging with the community around you, I think it's so important to learn from people who are either currently in your situation, have been in your situation before, or are where you're striving to be. So definitely, have a clear set plan, be disciplined, determined, have self-belief, celebrate those little wins along the way to keep you motivated, and learn from others. I think if you follow these first few steps, you'll definitely be on the right path to bring those big ideas to life.
That's beautiful. Today's a milestone, I think, for everyone here. So,
yeah, round of applause for that, I think.
We're clapping for ourselves. Omar, what about you?
Thank you. Well, I'll second everything Yara said, but I'd add maybe one key step that's important is don't go at it alone, right? And I think when it comes to doing something big, whether it's becoming a professional tennis player, it's very important to have support in your life. Yeah. Whether that's a co-founder, in my case, I co-founded Goodwall with my brother Tan. we would not have been able to create the impact that we have if we hadn't gone at it together, because you're really able to support each other. I've got his back, he's got mine. And the same even applies in tennis, right? We just met with your sister earlier, who's been, a pillar of support for you all throughout. So I'd say don't go at it alone, find that support and support someone in it.
Yeah. There's no one recipe, I think. So I totally agree the friend of mine. But when I look at the recipe of maybe my journey, I just think there will be 4 steps. The one is dream big. We were all big dreamers, right, in our childhood. What happened to us? I don't know. I also talk to myself as well sometimes. We forgot to dream, maybe because of the outer references and the daily business. We just think without our limits. So the first step, I think, should be the dream big. And the second one is find your problem. That problem triggers you to solve and disturb your sleep at night. The third one can be surrounding yourself with great people. Because as Omar and Yara mentioned, the thing is, maybe by yourself you can go very fast, but with the people surrounding yourself, you can go further than you plan, further than you dream, because it's all about achieving together. Like Mevlana Rumi says that, when you start to walk on the way appears, because with a good faith and with a really good goal, you will achieve your goals. And the last step, I think, taking action, because you have all the elements. You have right people surrounding yourself, you have a problem, and you have a big dream. When you connect all these 3 things, the rest is taking action and achieving your goals as fast as you can achieve. I think that 4 steps is very important. Big, dreaming big, finding your problem, surrounding yourself with great people, and taking action is my recipe for that side.
So I have a follow-up question. I think the answers might be interesting. And Omar and I had a chat about this. Would you give one component, so the think big versus the act now, more importance than the other, or do you think they're equal?
Wow. It's a tough question. we were not ready for that question.
Omar, what do you think?
It's a fine balance, right? I think if you take either one of those parts of the equation at an extreme, you think big and you exclusively, in isolation, think big, you'll never do anything. You'll just be up in the air, in the clouds, dreaming as you will, without ever concretely taking action. And then likewise, if you go to the other end of the spectrum and you just act now, you might actually create meaningful impact, but on a much smaller scale than you would have if you had bigger dreams, right? So it's really about finding that balance. I would argue if we were to go with, a percentage, I would lean on, think big, maybe 40%, act now, 60%, because humanity as a whole is predisposed to procrastination. So yeah. I think, I would emphasize the acting part.
I like how part of dreaming big is also planning big and also strategically thinking big. And it's not like, okay, I want to magically become a tennis player, like Yara said. Like, you need to have a plan. Like, this component is actually quite heavy. And that's, incredibly important for us to actually move to the next stage, which is to move. In movement and moving along, there are bumps along the way. And it requires some innovative thinking, it requires some problem solving, it requires a lot of heart and a lot of soul, I think. So I'm curious to know where your primary concerns lie. Within the 7 MGF pillars, we have sustainability and climate action, we spoke about digital innovation, education, mental health, entrepreneurship, arts and culture, and sports. Yara, if you can tell me, what are you most concerned about? And where do you feel the biggest opportunities exist that we have not capitalized on yet?
Yeah, so from a sporting perspective, I think that there are endless opportunities with the current growing interest in sports and what it presents for career development, right? For example, creating better pathways for high-performance athletes or more community sporting activities. And overall, again, promoting a healthy and active lifestyle for youth across the kingdom. I think that there are so many transferable skills that sport has to offer, whether that's time management, teamwork, discipline. I don't think you have to be an athlete to participate in the world of sport. I think that there are so many different facets that you can tap into. Technology, sustainability, innovation, culture. Those all play a big role in sport. So I definitely see a lot of opportunity there that we can definitely capitalize more on, for sure.
Definitely. Okan, what do you think?
Yeah, all of them are connected with each other, I think, but as a young leader for Sustainable Development Goals by United Nations, of course, I should say that sustainability is the most important one for me, but as I said, they are all connected. because we all know that the crisis we are facing in right now, the decisions we made until today brings the problems we are facing right now. So we need to change our mindset. We need to act differently rather than the before. So when I look at our world, the ices are melting and the sea levels are increasing. The natural disasters are happening. Forest fires are happening. The degrees of our weathers are increasing. So even the weathers are changing for countries. So I think the sustainability also connects with all biodiversity and connects with everything about nature, everything about planet and humanity. So this is the most important thing, and we need to take action for that as a seriously, because we have an Agenda 2030, as all of us know, when United Nations defined that in 2015. We are at the mid stage of our journey. We have 7 more years, and we are 15% of our goals. We have 85% rest, and we have 7 years rest as well. So sustainability is the most important one, I think, and we need to take action together very proactively and very quickly.
Omar, I think you're taking action on this one too.
So I think, yeah, all seven pillars are quite important, but I think I'd reiterate what Okan said. For us, we speak to our youth often, and the overarching problem on the top of their minds is, of course, the climate crisis. I think the BBC did a survey, and 60% of this generation wakes up with climate anxiety, right? So it's a big issue, and it's a critical issue. I was recently at the TED conference called Countdown, dedicated to addressing the climate crisis, and I always found it's such a big issue that it's difficult to grasp. Sometimes it's more visible, you see a natural disaster.
Yes.
And I asked a few of the communicators from Vox, Netflix, etc., how would you describe this issue, the 1.5 degree limit that we talk about in scientific terms, to youth so that they can really relate to it and understand it? And maybe who here in the audience is a parent? Maybe you could just raise your hand. Okay, we have a few parents here today. And the way they described it for me, the climate crisis, was they said, Omar, imagine the planet is your kid. And now your kid has a fever. That fever goes up by a degree, your kid's in the hospital, right? Your kid's hospitalized. Goes up by another degree, your kid's probably dead. Same applies to our planet. That's the urgency at which we have to act and address this crisis. And Big Now is the perfect framework to addressing it. Deploy all our resources, everything in our arsenal. John Kerry described it as a war on climate. It really is a war on the climate crisis. And we have to deploy everything in our capacity to address it immediately and urgently.
As a parent, that makes me a bit nervous, but Saudi is also taking a lot of action in this area. The Saudi Green Initiative is one of the main initiatives under the Vision 2030, so there is definitely a call for action here. Diriyah is actually one of the places that is, ensuring that we preserve as well the heritage, the sustaining and being part of the Green Initiative quite heavily as well. So my last question to you is, we have beautiful younger and slightly older than younger people with us here today who are visionary leaders in the Big Now. And like yourselves, how can you inspire and lead the way for positive social change that we all want to see? And we don't want to see it tomorrow. We don't want to see it in the future. I think what we're saying in the Big Now, even the future is too late. We want to see it now. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I think the simplest answer is leading by example, or in other words, walking the talk. I think we can sit here all day and talk about all we want to, achieve and change, but none of that is possible without taking action. And obviously, none of that is also possible alone. It has to be done through an entire community, all striving towards the same goal.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Leen. I would respond to that by saying, actually our work with the Misk Foundation is a really good example of how we are together building a movement for young people to get inspired by other young people, by seeing what others have done, right? I'm not sure if anyone here has seen this TED Talk. It's 3 minutes long. It's by Derek Sivers, and it's called How to Start a Movement. And it starts by a video of this crazy guy dancing in the middle of a field, and everyone looks at him and thinks he's a lone nut. But very soon, there's one follower who joins in. and starts dancing as well. And before you know it, the entire crowd has now joined in, and there's not enough space in the camera to even film it all. And what that signifies is, less emphasis and focus on, let's say, a leader who inspires, but rather in creating that movement and making that movement as visible as possible so that others follow in suit. If I see Yara does something, maybe I'd want to do it too. Maybe I could be a part of that, and as a result, create that positive change that we're looking for.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Yara. Thank you, Okan. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. If you have a dream and you want to get it done, I think it's very clear who you need to talk to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go.